What's going on, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new and updated deck profile for Atlantean Mermails here for the month of November. Excited for this one for a couple of reasons. I've made a bunch of changes to the main deck. I know the last two updates were kind of similar besides a few slight tweaks. Really hadn't been much reason for me to change it, but I really wanted to just kind of like flip everything on its head and take more of a competitive, more so competitive stance with this deck. But I also want to start experimenting and changing up the way I do profiles in of themselves. So you guys know that I normally do the standard monster spells, traps, then we do a test hand or combo sequence at the end of the video to follow the profile to help people get a better understanding how the deck works. I would like to do the normal profile rundown first, and then I would like to go into a bit of a more the breakdown of the deck itself, explain every card's specific role in the deck other than talking about just monster spells and traps. So we'll take a look at card rolls and then go into test hands afterward. Yeah, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the normal deck profile, then we'll do the breakdown of the deck itself, followed up with the test hand, and that should be it. But before we do any of that, I want to mention a quick shout out to my sponsor, Imperium Duelist. If you're interested in this playmat or these sleeves that I'm using here on the main deck, these sleeves are from Imperium Duelist as well, but I don't think they make these anymore, these purple ones. But these are their tournament-ready non-effect sleeves. Absolutely amazing quality. If you guys want to pick up any of this stuff, as well as dice and calculator cases, check out the link to their website down below, and you can use that code discount code WinterKills10 off to save 10% off. And yeah, now we'll go ahead and get into the profile. So the standard profile, 3 copies of Abyss Megalo, of course, for the Mermails, 3 copies of Mermail Abyss Teus, 2 copies of Pike, and 2 copies of Gund, 1 Mander, 1 Abyss Dyne, and 1 Osea, and that about sums it up for the Mermails. Now keep in mind, this first part of the profile is going to go very quick. Then we have 3 copies of Neptibus, 3 copies of Dragoons, 2 copies of Infantry, and 1 Marksman, cycling Marksman back into the deck. That is it for the Atlanteans. Other water monsters consist of Diva, Moulin Glacia, and the Lapis Dragon, of course. 2 copies of Gamma Seal. Very good card in the list right now. Then we have 3 copies of Phantasme as the only hand trap that I'm opting to run at the moment. Very good in going second strategies. I think should be in pretty much all most going second decks. That's it for the monsters. For the spells, we have 3 copies of Called by the Grave, 2 copies of Pot of Desires, 2 copies of Mind Control, 1 copy of Monsterborn, 1 for 1, and 1 Upstart Goblin, of course. Got to throw them there because the more consistent we can get, the better. So now we'll run into the extra deck where we have 1 Link Karibo, 2 copies of Mermail Abyssalacia, 1 Borlo Dragon, and 1 Borosword Dragon. To follow that up, we have Tatsunoko for our Synchro, Bryonic Dragon of the Ice Barrier, White Aura Monoceros, and White Aura Whale. And that is it for the Lynx and the Synchros. For the Ixies, we have 1 Toad, 1 Bahamut Shark, 1 Abyss Dweller, and then the 3 rank 7s, Big Eye, Red Eye Sword Metal, and Mermail Abyss Giles to round out the extra deck. So that was the basic deck profile in of itself. Monster spells and traps. No traps in this list, of course. All right, so now we're going to go into the more in-depth part of the deck profile here, where we take a look at card rolls. But we're going to start with the starters because those are the cards with the easiest activation requirements to fulfill. And basically, we want a set amount of these types of cards. Same thing applies for extenders and defense cards and things of that nature. So we'll go ahead and get into that part right now. And our starters are going to be cards like this. We have 3 Teus, 3 Prince, 2 Pike, 1 Diva, 2 Desires, and the 1 for 1. These are our starter cards because these are the cards that either get our engine going or help us see more of our engine cards or more cards in general to hopefully get to a card that will start our engine. And of course, that engine I'm referring to is the Mermail Atlantean engine. So seeing water monsters, cards like, Megalo and Teus with infantry and dragoons, things like that. So basically, very easy activation requirements to fill. 1 for 1 we need to discard. This is just play it and draw 2 after banishing 10. This is a normal summon. This is a normal summon as well, but requires just 1 discard. Prince is very easy to activate. We just plus off the activation of itself. And same thing applies with Teus. They all get us additional cards to work with in one way, shape, or form. And as you can see, we have 3, 6, 9, 12 of these. And we want anywhere from 11 to 13 is an ideal ratio. I didn't want to play Pot of Extravagance, sort of similar to that list that bubbled London, just because like Extravagance is just really expensive, and I wanted a bit more utility for my extra deck without having to play a bunch of multiples. So I went with Desires, because the way I look at it, Phantasme is in here to help fix the draw power that this deck has, especially since it is a going second list, with blind going second 100% of the time. Don't need to worry about emphasizing draw power for turn 1 to set up boards when we can just try to OTK. Desires is like, if it fixes your hand, it fixes your hand, and if it doesn't, you were probably in a losing position anyways. So it really doesn't make a big difference. Of course, 1 for 1 is the 4th copy of Prince. Yes, these are a lot of normal summons, but Prince can also act as a superior extender as well, via a discard target for Teus, acting as a monster reborn out of the grave. And this can be sort of a superior extender as well for when we can discard it off of a Megalo with a Gund and a Pike to revive the Pike to get another discard outlet to help continue further our plays. There's a lot of branching pathways that you can do with this deck. So a lot of the roles that you see are using these as starters, but they can also be extenders on top of a starting play. Whereas if we open Teus and Dragoons, we can pitch Teus or pitch Dragoons, add, Prince and Gund, and then like let's say we already have something like Dragoons in grave, we can summon Megalo, by pitching the Dragoons or pitching the Prince and the Gund, revive some other Mermail monster in our grave, revive a Atlantean, make a rank 4, etc., etc. So it's not really fulfilling the role of a starter there; it's fulfilling the role of an extender. So these are the cards that I like for starter purposes. Pike's not the best starter, it's not the most high quality starter, but it's a starter nonetheless, and this deck I feel like is lacking in starters, so I wanted to at least bump up and play 2 copies. I was considering 1, but also the fact that I'm playing Desires made me want to play 2. Yeah, you could play more of Greed, Moray of Greed, but this is just a more direct way just to get to cards that you need to see. 100%. Extravagance could also be there, but again, budget reasons, not playing Extravagance. So yeah. Then we have our superior extenders. These are the cards that, of course, help to extend upon the plays that we start with. Things that our starters are usually trying to get us into. Things that we're trying to resolve more often than not. Cards that will help expand on the plays that we've already begun. So in this, of course, this category, we usually want anywhere from like 5 to 12 of these superior extenders to help amplify upon the plays that we're making with our starters. And of course, anytime we go for Teus and Prince, we're getting cards like Dragoon, we're getting cards like Gund or Megalo if we don't have them already. And of course, the Monster Reborn, this could fulfill a couple of roles. This could be played way later on in a sequence. This could be considered a starter in some cases. If you discard like a Prince off of a Teus just to get something going, you can reborn it back, and get another play going, but mostly fulfilling the role of an extender, more so superior, because it is definitely like a very easy card to activate, and it can help get extra bodies on board. It can help revive Prince or infantry to make more plays. So definitely a very good card to have, and I think this is a good amount. Like I said, I wanted to max out on, of course, the 3 Megalo for the Desires. Of course, Dragoons you've always had to max out on, and Double Gund is nice because, like I said, these are cards we're going to try to resolve a lot, and Gund is one of those cards that is a very good card to resolve a lot, because it's basically a monster reborn for the Mermail archetype and can help make rank 7s and rank 4s with reviving Pike if we have Dragoons on field and things like that. And this is, of course, like one of your main reasons that you can push for game is with Megalo. And then we'll go into the additional extenders, less easy activation requirement, things that we have to work a little bit to get in use and in play. This is, of course, after we start our play with something like Teus. We can discard, if we don't open Dragoons with Teus, this can be sort of a superior extender in a sense, so it can kind of commingle between 2 roles to help us get some sort of rank 4 play, to help us get something going if we open Teus with no really good superior extender. That's why I like this card, because it's an additional extender that you can search off Teus if you don't happen to have the right discard for it. Same thing goes with the Pike. If you open up Megalo, Pike, and Gund, which can happen pretty easily, you can grab this off of the Pike, and then normal it, and then make more plays from there. Again, more rank 4 plays to help get into a defensive board if you can't quite OTK. Dying, a great extender. If you add this to your hand while you control a Mermail monster, it is a 1, so you have to time it correctly or else it'll miss timing, but you can just summon it to the field as a free body, and if it's special summoned by the effect of a Mermail monster, you can summon any level 3 Mermail monster from your grave, I believe, so it can help make more plays there. Free link fodder. Mander is a pivotal key for making the Bahamut Shark play off of Osea, and of course this can help make synchro plays, and is just good for link fodder in general. So yeah, there's the additional extenders, much less of those because those are hard requirements to fulfill, and we usually don't go for them right away, and they can sort of result in bad hands. Now, one of the things this deck needs a lot is, especially at this day and age, is a lot of removal, because this deck tries to OTK a lot, and we need removal cards. We have core removal cards. They are just cards that our engine sort of has built in. They're not sort of cards that are outside of our engine that we need to play that'll help us clear cards. We have cards built into our own engine that will help do that, and that's cards like Infantry and Marksman. Not only are they searchable, but of course they get all their effects off of our cards, that we're trying to use, like our starter cards like Teus or Neptibus, things like that. So clearing of face-up cards, clearing of set cards. I was playing 3 infantry, but again, more options the better, so I wanted to incorporate the marksman. And then we have a bit more spot removal, not really core removal within the own archetype. Can't search this, but when we do see it, it is very helpful, especially in matchups like Thunder Dragon. Getting rid of Colossus is a very important thing to do, so we need that. And then of course the other spells that we have that were sort of classified here as that spot removal is the mind control. This can help, use whatever monster we take for link fodder into Boral Load or Boral Sword to help push for game. And again, it's just more spot removal for cards that are trying to lower our ceiling or just prevent us from pushing and advancing our game state any further. Just very good cards to have. So these, cards you could sort of pull together, but it's just removal. Which this deck needs because it doesn't really excel at it too much within its own engine, because a lot of things that can protect from destruction don't really care about these cards, but everything else it's pretty good against. So that's why you need the additional cards like Mind Control and Gamma Seal for those things. Then we have a bit of reactive extenders here. This is a card, of course, we're going second. If our opponent is link summoning, that means they're probably playing any of the top best decks like Thunder, Salamangreat, Strike, or Orcust. We can gain advantage of that after a certain point of our opponent's plays. Summon it out, draw cards, and it can also serve as defense while it's on the board as well. So it's a defensive card. It's a reactive extender that we can play in response to our opponent's plays to make our plays better. And then Call by the Grave is sort of that chainable defense. This card can help sort of remove restrictions placed on us by our opponent. Things like Ash, Droll and Lockbird, Ghost Ogre, whatever it may be, that pesky Ash Blossom on the Dragoons. So we can help remove those cards that are trying to lower our ceiling so we can raise ours above our opponent. So I think these 6 defense cards here are very good, and this can also help to extend our plays before we even had a chance to technically play yet. So Phantasme being very powerful. This card is be considered a bomb. I feel like every deck should potentially have a bomb, or at least try to, except most decks have a lot of power plays built into them. Mermail is not really one of them unless you try to go into the extra deck. This is also a very good play for going first if you have to. Knock 2 cards out of their hand. Very pivotal. And then the placeholder card it really doesn't serve any other purpose but then to lower the deck count below 40. And this is one of those decks where our consistency is a big issue, so the less cards we can play, the better. So that is it for the deck breakdown. Hopefully that made sense to you guys, and I could go into the profile a bit more in depth. Hopefully you guys stuck around to watch that, and if you did, let me know, and let me know what you think about it, because again, I'm just trying to experiment. I don't know if I'll continue to do profiles like this, but I feel like it'll help to, in general, you'll be able to see the deck list itself, but also get a better idea of how deck building can be done. So, and then the extra deck, of course, is, it is what it is. You have, cards that can help take things. Again, more removal here. This is sort of a floodgate, if you will. Again, this could also be considered a floodgate, main deck floodgate. And the nice thing about not having to main deck floodgates is it doesn't lower our consistency in the main deck by having to main things like Goes in match per se. We can just easily access these floodgates through our extra deck because we already excel at getting a rank 7 on the field or a rank 4. Same thing with Shark. Can extend via detaching. These things can also be considered extenders because they can detach, Dragoons or whatever to get us an additional search. More floodgates here, floodgates, extension, defense by way of Alacia. This is just sort of removal as well. More removal, removal that's extremely important. Extension and defense as well. So we have a lot of built-in defense. Yugioh could be defense as well as floodgating. So a lot of variety in the extra deck as far as things that we're trying to, do to either extend our plays or stop our opponent. Because a lot of times we find with Mermails, if we can OTK them, we want to try to shut down their plays as soon as possible so that we can win the following turn. And Red Eyes Flare is one of the best examples I can give. If you're a couple hundred life points off, Red Eyes Flare can just potentially lock them out of playing, via sort of a soft lock. But yeah, so that's it for the deck profiles and sort of, the basic deck profile, the deck breakdown, talking about card rolls and my choices for those. So you guys can get a better sense of why I chose to play what I want to play. But now we'll do a test hand or two. I don't really want to do any combos. There's no new combos to be discovered with Mermail. It's, the same old, without adding a ton of extravagant bricks to the main deck to make some, really drawn out field. But yeah, we'll go ahead and shuffle the deck here some more, and we'll do like 2 test hands or so. All right, so I've shuffled the deck quite a bit, did a quick pile shuffle. We'll go ahead and draw into an opening hand here and see what we can make work. We have Desires, Prince, Called by the Grave, and a copy of Gun. We're going to do these going second because, of course, this is a go with second build. We open up a second copy of Called by the Grave. It is what it is. We just have extra protection for this particular hand. Now, I wouldn't go ahead and start with Desires because we have a Prince play that we need to make first. Now, if we didn't open Prince and we open like a Megalo or something, then of course we have the Desires, maybe Upstart first and then Desires. But here, since I really wouldn't mind drawing into one of the things we might send off of Prince since we play multiple Dragoons, I'm going to go ahead and Upstart first. We go ahead and draw into a copy of Abyssmander. All right, so let's go ahead and use Nebbed Abyss now. Send the Dragoons, add the Dragoons, and add a copy of Megalo. So we did see like 2 starters in our hand, which is really good. So we can make a lot of good plays here. I don't really want to play Desires just yet. All right, so I have shuffled the deck here a little bit after we did our searching. So now what we have to work with is this Gund, this Megalo, this Dragoons, and this Abyssmander. So we have a couple options here. We could go ahead and either play Desires, or we could go ahead and use the Megalo to discard the Dragoons to potentially search out another Sea Serpent. But I'm going to go ahead and play the Desires here and see what we can draw, since we already got a Dragoons in play. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and we draw into 2 more cards. Let's go ahead and see what we banished here. Dragoons, Diva, Moulin, not too bad actually. The fact that we banished Moulin, banished both Pikes, not too big of a deal. That we banished the Moulin isn't a big deal. We're going second. That card is primarily good for a going second setup anyways, or going first setup. So now we'll go ahead and start with the Megalo. We'll go ahead and pitch the, let's see, the Dragoons and the Mander, since we have this other Megalo in hand. And I'll go ahead and grab a Prince off this Dragoons. Now, one thing I actually forgot to put in this profile was the Mizuchi. That's a card you could play, but I almost see Mizuchi as a bit of an engine requirement, a card that we're playing solely because we can search it at a certain point. And I feel like Mizuchi is a lot of times a card that can make bad hands worse. And if anything, I would drop a second Desires for it, but I value having that extra, consistency power from a card like Desires over a card like Mizuchi, when we already have a lot of defense built into the extra deck. But again, feel free to play it. I just totally forgot about it for the profile, but that's completely my bad. So from this point on, it does suck that we drew the Phantasme, but again, that's just more defense and reactive extension that we can have for our opponent. We'll summon Megalo here. We'll go ahead and discard the Gund and the Prince. We'll go ahead and use Gund 1, or Gund 2, Prince 1. Prince will summon this, and this will summon this. So, yeah, so this would get summoned first, then this would get summoned. So here we have a couple options. we could go ahead and make a rank 4 and a link 2, which is exactly what I'm going to do. But first things first, we could use Megalo here to tribute to attack twice. Is a very viable option. But I'm going to just go ahead and link these two off into a copy of the Abyssalacia, and then we'll go ahead and overlay these here into a copy of Bahamut Shark or Dweller if the matchup calls for it. We'll go ahead and discard that, summon out that Totally Awesome, or not discard it, but detach it rather. And then we'll go ahead and add a copy of Infantry so we have that extra interruption there from the Alacia, being able to discard Infantry to search Teus on the following turn. Now, like I said, you could easily play Mizuchi here and just drop like a Call by the Grave or something for that other copy of Mizuchi. And I think that's exactly what I'll do. So we'll add that Mizuchi in. My apologies, I just completely forgot about this. I'll leave a note early on in the video. So we have the Mizuchi here. We have a 3 interruption, 4 if you want to count the call by. So we can OTK if we need to. We did have a big field, but we're just going to try to push for damage if anything with what we have. So we could easily tribute off this for double attacking Megalo at 3200, this being at 27 and this being at 16 of course still, or we could boost this up by the 800 if we need to. And if they try to do anything next turn, we have the Phantasme to draw 2, which would be a Gund and a Megalo, and then we could put back something else. So yeah, not too bad. This is a deck that you could also probably go first with, I suppose, but I just like the idea of being able to go second because it makes a lot of our cards better. Megalo on field is much better because we have access to the tribute effect. Yeah, it's just much better in my opinion. That's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I'm just trying out something new with the deck profile videos here. Maybe this is something I don't need to do in every deck profile, but I figured I'd give it a shot. And let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, of course, because you guys are the deciding factor of whether or not I'll keep doing it, since you're the guys that are watching. So let me know. I would appreciate some feedback on this one. Just kind of taking a shot in the dark here and seeing what you guys think of it. So yeah, as always, Winterkill signing out. If you guys are interested in picking up anything on TCG Player, don't forget to use my affiliate link down in the description below. Help support me in the channel in the process just by using that link. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, Winterkill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one.